Hello, welcome. My name is Di Darienzo. I'm an executive director with United Financial Freedom and a certified wealth trainer with United Financial Wealth. In this section, I will be teaching you how to bank like a bank. This is critical information that you absolutely need to know in order to survive financially in today's market. Our story begins in 1997 when two best friends fulfilled a childhood dream of going into business together. John Washinko and Skylar Whitman, they founded one of Utah's fastest growing mortgage companies. And it didn't take long before they realized that Americans have a serious problem with debt. They'd see the same clients coming back again and again, refinancing their homes, but not for the right reasons, not because they were leveraging the equity to buy additional real estate or invest in other investments, but because they were living beyond their means. They were buying cars on credit, they were buying boats on credit, they were taking vacations on credit. And when the payments got uncomfortable, they would come back, do a cash out refi, pay off those debts, and lighten the load just a little bit, and then start the cycle all over again. We all know that you can only do that so many times before you bottom out, before you run out of equity, before you throw off your debt to income, before you ruin your FICO score. And those are just conversations nobody wanted to have. So John and Skylar literally started looking all over the world to find a solution to this disease that we call debt. And you know what they found? Absolutely nothing. So they invested millions of dollars. They hired IT people and mathematicians. And in 2004, they launched the first version of what we now call the Money Max account. Now, they did a beta test in 2005 and 2006 on 400 homeowners in the Colorado region. And much to their surprise and delight, at the end of this beta test, not only were their clients on track, but the average client was 20% further ahead than the program predicted. So they went ahead, they launched nationwide, and to date, we have helped our clients pay down over $2.3 billion in principal. And for every dollar we help our clients pay down, we eliminate $3 to $6 in corresponding interest. That's interest money that never has to be paid. This program was so well received that in 2008, a high-ranking official over at Wells Fargo nominated John and Skylar to receive the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year award. Now, Ernst & Young, they don't give this award out easily. They do intense due diligence. They look at the founders and the company's financials, their longevity, their retention rate, the product viability, and the overall impact they have on consumers. After they gather all of this data, they give this award out to one lucky company. And in 2008, John and Skylar received this award in the financial services division. That's a big deal. If you remember 2008, we were in the middle of a financial meltdown, and they were given this award in the financial service category. Now, just so you know the caliber of companies who receive this, you'll see we walk among giants. You recognize these other companies by their logo alone. Since then, we have been featured in every industry-related magazine. I'm talking feature articles, not advertisements, but feature articles. Why all the fuss? Because we are solving one of the biggest problems in our country today, debt. Debt is the number one cause of divorce, the number one cause of domestic violence, the number one cause of suicide, the number one reason that 95% of Americans retire broke. And what you're about to see is the answer to all of those problems. So over the next little while, we're going to be discussing 8 banking products and principles and how they come together to create the most effective and aggressive debt elimination program in our country today. We're going to talk about closed-end loans, mortgage amortization, interest cancellation, open-end loans, and lines of credit. And then we are going to move on and discuss offset accounts, followed by float and leverage, interest accumulation, and strategic debt payoff. And you will see how implementing these principles and products, you can literally crush and destroy any debt in record time. So what do we know about closed-end loans? Well, first of all, they allow money to go one way. You can make payments in, but you cannot take withdrawals out without refinancing or selling. It requires at bare minimum a full scheduled payment, and it's driven by an amortization schedule, which means any money applied today does not affect the interest charges until next month because it calculates interest from the previous month end balance. What am I talking about here? Yeah, this is a mortgage. And the main takeaways are that they're very restrictive, no flexibility. And if you stick with the bank's plan, you're just going to pay way too much money. So that brings us to our second principle, mortgage amortization. What we're going to be discussing tonight is a $400,000 loan with a 6% interest rate amortized over 30 years. Now, the payment on that loan is $2,398.20. Out of that, $398.20 goes towards principal, and the other $2,000 goes straight to interest. My friends, that's not 6%. That is 83% of your payment going towards interest. And we're going to call interest what it really is. That is sheer bank profit. Okay. Now, the good news is that every time you make a payment, a little bit more goes towards interest, a little bit more goes towards principal, and a little bit less goes towards interest. So if we look at month number 2, yeah, it's not that exciting. It's less than a $2 difference. Is it any wonder that it takes these types of loans 30 years to pay off? So let's look at the first year. By the end of year number 1, if this was your loan, you would have paid over $28,000 to the bank, and they've give you credit for less than $5,000. Let's take it out to year number 5. You now would have paid $143,000 on this $400,000 loan. $27,782 would go towards equity, meaning that $116,000 went where? Interest, bank profit. What did that $116,000 buy you and your family? Did you get a couple extra bedrooms? Did you get a few extra acres out back? No, you got absolutely nothing. That's like getting in your car, driving down the freeway, and merrily throwing $1,000 bills out your window. It does absolutely nothing for you. And at this point in your mortgage, this is where the average American refinances and starts this vicious cycle all over again. You think I'm exaggerating? Go to work tomorrow. Ask your friends, ask your coworkers, how many years do you have left to go on your mortgage? You're going to hear 28, 27, 29, 30. I just refinanced. We have been conditioned to refinance our homes every couple of years because we're chasing rate. And you're going to discover today that rate truly does not matter. So let's get out to year number 10. You've now paid over $287,000 on a $400,000 loan, and you've been given credit for a little over $65,000. We get to year number 21. You've now paid $604,000 on a $400,000 loan. You have $200,000 in equity, and you owe just under $200,000. Yes, in year 21, congratulations, you have reached the halfway point. Friends, as far as I'm concerned, you've paid more than enough on this loan. But according to the bank, you have another 9 years to go. And if you make every single mortgage payment on time on a $400,000 loan at 6%, you would pay $863,000. Yes, you bought a house for yourself and one for the bank. That is not 6% on any planet. It is 116%. You know what I call that? Legalized theft. It's legal, you signed it. It's theft, you didn't understand it. And as Albert Einstein once said, those who understand interest are destined to earn it, and those who don't are doomed to pay it. Guys, Don't you think it's time that you understand it and turn the tables on the bank? Now, you might be saying, well, Di, this is terrible, but I don't have a 6% rate. My rate is 4.5. My rate is 3. My rate is 2. Friends, take a look at this. This is our same $400,000 loan amortized over 30 years at 4.5%. In year number 1, 73.4% is going where? Interest, bank profit. Year 5, you still have over 68% going towards interest. I sat down with a client and they had a 2.65 on their mortgage. And right on their truth in lending statement, in the state of Washington, you're required to disclose the TIP, which is the total interest percentage. It told them their interest rate was not really 2.6%. It was 42.2%. You guys, everyone likes to demonize credit cards, but you know what? Legally, the banks can't charge you more than 36% on a credit card. And on your mortgage, the cheapest money you're ever going to borrow. Look at what's really going on. So I want you to understand, rate does not matter. It's how it's calculated. And there are multiple different ways to calculate interest, and the bank calculates it in their favor every single time. Now, we're going to move on to our third principle, which is interest cancellation. And this is where we start getting excited because we're able to start turning the tables on the bank and keeping more of our hard-earned money and paying less in interest. We are still talking about the same $400,000 loan with a 6% rate amortized over 360 months. As we said, with a closed-end loan at bare minimum, you are required to make a fully amortized payment. So in month number 1, our client pays that $2,398.20. $320 or $398 goes towards principal, $1,000 goes towards interest. But what if on top of that minimum payment, they were to tack on an additional $2,021.06? What would this do to our mortgage? Well, logic tells us if I apply an extra $2,000, I will cancel an extra month of interest. Logic would be wrong because principal and interest are connected, and anything you do to principal affects the interest. So by making this additional $2,021.06 payment, you cancel, you eliminate, you wipe off the face of the earth a corresponding 5 interest payments. So that $2,000 saves you almost $10,000 on the back end of this loan. In any other arena, would you invest $2,000 to make 10? Of course you would. That is a very equitable arrangement. But what if we're not thinking big enough? What if instead of making an additional $2,000 payment, we made an additional $5,000 payment? What would that look like on our mortgage? Now, I know what you're thinking, Di, this sounds great, but where am I supposed to get an extra $5,000 to put on my mortgage? Friends, I promise you, we didn't invite you here to show you how to pay an extra $5,000 on your pocket, out of your pocket. So stick with us and we will show you a couple different places where this $5,000 can come from. That brings us to our next principle, open-end loans or lines of credit. We talked about closed-end loans. Now we're going to take a look at how open-end loans differ. First of all, payments can go in and withdrawals can come out. Another difference is instead of making a fully amortized payment, at minimum, you can make an interest-only payment because it's driven by a draw period or a repayment period, and money applied today affects today's balance. You make a payment and the clock stops. The principal is recalculated and the interest is charged to that dollar amount. And it's because it calculates interest on an average daily balance. Banks are smart. Banks are very smart, and they understand and use a concept called no stagnant money. And what that means is that No money sits idly doing nothing. Every penny has a job to do. It's either going to earn interest, cancel interest, or sometimes do both simultaneously. Smart investors, they do what banks do, and they move the right amount of money at the right time from the right account to another, and then they let it sit for the right length of time. Now, banks also, at the end of business every day, they sweep all of the money out of our checking and savings accounts, and they put them into high interest bearing accounts for themselves and their special clients, because banks understand that money is the best employee they will ever have, and it works 24/7, 365. Now, how many of you would like to get one of these sweep accounts for yourself? Well, another word for a sweep account is an offset account. And offset accounts are open-ended accounts. An offset account is simply an account where you can park your money for a specific period of time where it's going to earn interest, cancel interest, or in some cases, do both things simultaneously. Here at United Financial Freedom, we actually have 3 different offset account options. The first one is a home equity line of credit. If you know our history, in 2004, when we brought the money merge account to America, we introduced velocity banking, and our program was driven by a home equity line of credit. If you use a home equity line of credit offset account, you are going to be able to cancel interest. After the mortgage meltdown of 2008, we had a choice. We could either quit issuing our program because the banks didn't issue home equity lines of credit anymore, or we could re-engineer it. And we chose to invest another $19 million in research and development, and we were able to eliminate our reliance on a home equity line of credit, which also meant that we could help more people, because you didn't have to have a home, you didn't have to have equity, nor did you have to have good credit, because it now works just as well with a checking and savings account. This offset account method also allows you to cancel interest. Then we spent the last 10 years researching the very best offset account, one that would give you the option to not only cancel interest, but earn interest simultaneously, basically using the same dollar twice. And that third offset account is a high cash value permanent life insurance policy. We're going to be discussing these different types of offset accounts as we go, but we're going to begin talking about the line of credit method, because this is where we got our start. So here we have our $400,000 mortgage that we've been talking about this entire session. Now we're adding a line of credit. It's going to be a home equity line of credit with a $25,000 limit with a 6% interest rate. Now, would any of you use 10% money to pay off 6% money? Oh my gosh, I just lost you, didn't I? You're thinking, that's counterintuitive. That flies in the face of logic. No sane person would use 10% money to pay off 6% money. Now, if you're thinking that way, you're not alone, because that's what the banks have brainwashed us to think. Remember, the bank wants us to believe that rate matters. And at the beginning of our discussion, I told you it's not the rate, it's the type of product and the length of time that you're exposed to said rate. And I am now going to mathematically prove to you why it would make sense to use 10% money to pay down, 10% money to pay down 6% money in this example. So remember that $5,000 principal accelerator that I talked about? I didn't know where it was going to come from. This is one such place. So we're going to borrow money from our HELOC to pay down our first mortgage. We're going to transfer $5,000 from that home equity line of credit over to our mortgage. Now, what do we accomplish by that simple funds transfer? First of all, we cancel $24,000 in future interest, and we eliminate a full year off of the back end of the loan. That's pretty exciting, isn't it? Well, I know money's not free. We have to pay the bank for the use of their money. So On that $10,000 or $5,000 at 10%, the payment in month number one would be $41.67. Now, we're going to round that up to $50 just to keep my math easy. It's not 50, it's $41.67. But like I said, we're keeping math easy. So how many of you would pay $50 to save $24,000 in month number one? Of course, everybody, all hands are going up. What if it takes us more than 1 month to pay back $5,000? Let's say it takes us 6 months to pay back $5,000. Well, $50 times 6 is $300. Are we willing to invest $300 to save $24,000? Yeah, that's sounding like a pretty good deal. What if it takes a full year? 50 times 12, that's $600. Anyone willing to pay $600 to save $24,000? All day long, twice on Sunday. Let's be ridiculous and say it takes us 5 years to pay back $5,000. That would be $3,000. Anybody willing to invest $3,000 to save $24,000? At what point does this whole thing get ridiculous? Well, at the point where it would cost you more in interest than you actually save. And friends, that wouldn't happen over 30 years. So now that we understand that, we can move on to our next concept, float and leverage. Now, what you guys are going to be discovering as we go through our conversation is that you actually know and use aspects of all of these concepts already. You just don't know how to effectively use them all together. So, what is float and leverage? We do this every month with our credit cards, right? We go out, we use our credit cards every single day. We buy groceries, we get gas, we get our coffee, we go out to dinner, we go to the movies, we get our kids' tennis shoes, we pay our phone bill, we pay our utility bills. Everything goes on the credit card. And then at the end of the month, what do responsible cardholders do? You pay that sucker down to zero. And even if it's a 36% rate on your credit card, you pay zero interest. And you got rewards points and Sky Miles and cash back. You literally floated the balance. You leveraged your lender's money interest-free for 25 to 45 days. Once again, what if we aren't thinking big enough? So let's take a look at our $400,000 mortgage, which is now down to $395,000. And we have our HELOC, which is now being used by our client as their primary checking account. And they earn $5,000 a month. So when they get paid, that $5,000 is going to be deposited directly into the home equity line of credit. Now, if they pay that HELOC off in month number one, how much interest are they charged? Is it $41.67? No, it's zero. What are they supposed to live on the rest of the month? That's where our credit card comes in. And we put all of our living expenses on that credit card, the groceries, the gas, everything to the tune of $4,000. And then when the payment is due at the end of the month, we write one check out of our home equity line of credit. We pay that down to zero as well. So what did we pay for the use of the bank's money on the credit card? Nothing. What did we pay for the use of the bank's money on the HELOC? Nothing. How much interest did we save? $24,000 in 12 months. So do you think that maybe this Money Max account might know a thing or two about finances that you don't? Oh, absolutely. And it gets even better because the average American has more than just a mortgage. They have like 6 different payments going out. And if this was your debt right here, which one of these would you pay off first? Now, with 6 different payments, that if you know factorial math, there's 720 different sequences in which this can be paid. And choosing the wrong one, it's only going to cost you possibly tens and thousands of dollars. So which one do we choose? Some experts say pick the lowest balance so that you can build momentum. Someone else will say, no, 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 pick the highest interest rate so you pay as little interest. Someone else says, well, just put a little on all of them. And someone else says, oh, just pick one. Which one of those is the fastest way to zero? Is it the snowball, the avalanche, the target? Friends, it's none of them. None of those are the fastest way to zero. They will all pay you off sooner, but not one is the fastest way to zero. The fastest way to zero is math, okay? So what's missing? No one has the systems to do this themselves. No one has the time to do this on their own. It's too complicated to do manually. It's too complex to navigate. There's no strategic payoff. Wouldn't it be nice if there was like a GPS for our finances, something that just told us exactly what we needed to do, where to turn, how far to go? Well, we have the answer because finance has finally caught up with technology. And we have the first, the one, the only web-based interactive financial GPS in the entire market. It takes a look at every single aspect of your financial situation. You tell it your income, how much you owe on each debt, the interest rates, the calculations. You can tell it what's coming up down the road, and it's going to tell you exactly what date to move an exact dollar amount from one account to the other to build you the most interest and cancel the most interest and help you get mathematically to zero in the fastest way possible. And you know what? When unexpected things happen, what do I mean by unexpected things? I mean things like the car breaking down, the dishwasher leaking, the dog swallowing a rock and needing emergency surgery, the kids playing hide and seek in the washer and dryer, and when your baby weighs 90 pounds, the washing machine no longer agitates when he hides in it. Life, when those types of things happen, just like with your GPS, it's going to recalculate. It's live, it's dynamic, and it's always going to get you to zero debt as fast as possible. You're going to earn the most interest and cancel the most interest. You're going to pay the least amount of interest possible. So it's going to show you strategic debt payoff. So it takes a look at your cash flow. This is for the HELOC or the line of credit method, and we'll show the other one next. So when you get paid, the money goes into your checking account. The program analyzes every single aspect of your financial situation. It honors your minimum reserve, and it prompts a funds transfer over to the HELOC to start paying down that debt. When you get paid again, it's going to do the exact same thing. Analyze every single aspect of your financial situation, honor your minimum reserve, prompt a funds transfer over to your HELOC until it reaches an optimal transfer point, at which time it will prompt another strategic funds transfer from the HELOC over to whichever debt or debts mathematically make the most sense in that particular month. So how does it work with your life insurance or with a savings account? The exact same way, only opposite, okay? We have a checking account, and now we have a savings account or a life insurance account. When you get paid, your income goes into your checking account. The program analyzes every single aspect of your financial situation. It honors your minimum reserve, and it prompts the funds transfer over to the insurance or the savings. Then when you get paid, it's going to do the exact same thing. It's going to analyze every aspect of your financial situation, honor your minimum reserve, prompt another strategic funds transfer. And when it reaches an optimal transfer point, it's going to prompt a strategic funds transfer. It's going to look at all of your different debts and tell you which debt or debts to apply your excess funds to. So with the line of credit method, we have a home equity line of credit balance that we are paying down until we reach an optimal transfer point. With the checking or the insurance, we are building up a savings until we reach an optimal transfer point, and then transferring it over to the appropriate debt. So we actually have a dashboard, okay? And without this dashboard telling you exactly what to do, your home equity line of credit really isn't an offset account. It's really just another debt that will end up being maxed out, just like the credit cards are. You'll end up with an attic or a garage full of stuff, And every couple of years, you'll set a reset button on your mortgage. So what we're going to do now is we are going to look at a sample client. We're going to go through month by month, blow by blow. You're going to see the Money Max account dashboard that tells you what to do. So this client, his name is Steve Jones, and Steve, he has that $400,000 mortgage we've been talking about all day. Okay. And we know there's escrow and there's also PMI on top of that mortgage. So the total mortgage payment is $2,793.20. His monthly living expenses are $3,706.80. So his total living expenses are $6,500. Steve's household income is $8,000. If we subtract his living expenses, that gives him a discretionary income of $1,500 a month. Now, do you have to have a discretionary income of $1,500 a month? Absolutely not. Our average client has like $300 to $400, but in this example, Steve has $1,500. Now, this is the dashboard we were talking about. Once you purchase the Money Max account and you upload it to whatever device you're using, you are going to see right across the top how much interest you have remaining. Remember, the bank wanted over $400,000. Well, if Steve follows this program, he could pay as little as $144,000. Instead of being in debt for 30 years, Steve can be debt-free in just 10.8, and he can potentially save $321,000. Now, this program's really easy to follow. It looks like any other budget worksheet you've seen in the history of forever. It lays out your debts in the order in which they occur. And if you see, it's going to prompt you, tells you to take a very mathematically precise dollar amount, $12,875 from the HELOC, move it to the checking on a specific date. So now we're going to go through month by month, blow by blow, and see how this program works. We are going to eliminate the float and leverage because it would be too complicated to show here. We're going to show Steve actually paying the interest, but also you're going to see he doesn't feel it because they're running it through the home equity line of credit. So our starting balance is $0. Steve's expenses are $6,500. It prompts that funds transfer in the amount of $12,875.88. Friends, that is a very mathematically precise number. It's not 13,000. It's not 12,800. It's not 12,875. It is $12,875.88. You want to follow the program to the penny because it knows the dollar amount the bank is looking for. If you don't send them enough, they're not applying it to your debt. They will hold it in an escrow account, earning interest for themselves until you reach the right dollar amount. If you send too much, they will apply what they need and hold the rest in that escrow account, earning interest for themselves. And remember, with this program, we want you earning as much interest as you can and canceling as much, not giving it away to the bank. So follow it. Exactly. It's mathematically precise to the penny. Then the new balance is $19,375.88. Income is $8,000, bringing our balance to $11,375.88. For the use of the bank's money in month number 1, our client is charged $94.80. What does Steve get for that $94.80? He gets $58,850.65 canceled off of his loan, and it eliminates 29 payments. That's over 2 years. How many of us are willing to invest $94 to save $58,000 and 2.5 years? Absolutely. But you know what? Let's take a look at interest cancellation. Remember how we showed that between month number 1 and month number 2, the amount going towards principal was going to increase by less than $2? Well, by applying that extra $12,875.88, the principal jump is actually $66.37. It canceled $58,850. It eliminated 29 payments off of the back end of the month. And we were totally okay with paying $94.88 to do that. But look over here at the bottom. If you subtract that principal jump of $66.37 from the $94.80, Steve actually only paid $28.43 for the use of the bank's money to save himself $58,000. Now in month number 2, we began our offset account balance with the balance carried over from month number 1. Steve's expenses are still $6,500. I want to stop there and stress our expenses don't change. We don't want you to tighten the belt. We're not asking you to cut up your credit cards, live on beanies and weenies, and ride your bike to work. No, those programs fail, okay? They have like a 13% success rate. We want you to succeed. So if you need to play golf on Saturday, keep playing golf on Saturday. If you need a $300 pizza budget every month, keep $300 for pizza in your budget every month, okay? So our expenses stay the same, bringing us to $17,970.68. Our income hits, bringing us down to $9,970.68. And Steve is charged $83.09 in interest for month number 2, bringing us to $10,053.77, which is where we begin month number 3. Our expenses are what? The same. And that brings us to $16,553.77. Our income is the same, bringing us down to $8,553.77. Steve is charged another $71.28 in interest, bringing our ending balance to $8,625.05, which is where we begin month number 4. Our expenses are what? The same, bringing us to $15,125.05. Our income is $8,000, bringing us down to $7,125.05, which prompts another strategic funds transfer in a very mathematically precise number of $4,310.20, bringing our balance to $11,435.25, for which Steve is charged $95.29. It cancels yet another $17,176.53 in interest and eliminates another 9 months off of the back end of this loan. Let's take a look at our amortization schedule. We're in month number 3, and we should have had 357 payments to go. We were already down to 328 in month number 4. It drops all the way down to 318, and look at the balance. It's down to 381,000. And in month number 5, we are down to 317. We have a principal jump between month 4 and 5 of $23.89. But if we look at what's happened from the very beginning, oops, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself there. So we have a principal jump of $23.89. And so for that 4-month period, Steve is charged $344.46. And it's canceled him $76,027.18. How many of you would pay $344 that you don't feel because it's running through the HELOC to save $76,000? Absolutely. And it eliminated over 3 years off of the back end of this loan. We're jumping ahead to month number 7 because month number 5 and 6 are similar to month 2 and 3, where Steve is paying back his line of credit. His expenses are the same, bringing us to $15,185.91. We subtract his income, bringing us down to $7,185.95, which prompts yet another funds transfer in the amount of $5,304.98. Very, very mathematically precise. Nobody would come up with these numbers. It takes a program based on hundreds of mathematical algorithms to spit out these numbers. Our ending balance is $12,490.89. For which Steve is charged $104.09, bringing us to $12,594.98. It cancels another $19,522.50, eliminates another 11 months. Let's look at our amortization schedule. Month number 5, we're already down to 316 months. Month number 6, we're down to 316. Month number 7, look at this. We should be on payment number 353, but we're down to 304. And look at the balance. And in month number 8, we have $527.08 being applied towards principal. That's a $29.01 jump from the previous month, but it's $128.88 from month number 1. So what have we accomplished in just this 7 short month period? Steve was charged $603.92 for the use of the bank's money, but it canceled $1,549.68. Anybody here willing to invest $603 to save $95,549.68? That's a pretty amazing return on investment, if you ask me, and it eliminated over 4 years off of this loan. And we're only in month number 7. So let's go back to our dashboard. Remember the dashboard, the thing that is making all of this happen so that we don't have to think about it. It's telling us exactly how much money to move from one account to the other on a very precise date. Yeah, that dashboard. Well, after 7 months, look at this. There's only 131,000 left in interest to go. We went from 10.8 years. We're already down to 10.1. And our client has saved $95,550 in actual money. And what do we see coming up right there? Oh, yes, another funds transfer from the home equity line of credit over to the mortgage. It's really that simple. All you need to do is follow the prompts. You get in this a couple times a month or a couple minutes of each time, and you save yourself tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest and years off of your mortgage. So how do we compare? Well, let's take a look. Bank's plan, Money Max account. They both start at $400,000. After 7 months with the bank, you still owe $397,000. On the Money Max account, you're already down to $374,000. How long would it take the bank to catch up to the Money Max account? I mean, let's be real. Eventually, they would have to catch up, right? Well, in order for the bank to do what we've done in just 7 months, it would take them another 4 years, okay? It would take 4.7 years for them to almost do what we did in 7 months. Why? The bank wants you in debt for 30 years. With the Money Max account, Steve Jones, he can be debt-free in 10.8 years. Total interest paid, the bank wants $463,000 out of you. Using the Money Max account, Steve can pay as little as $144,000. So given the choice, and it really is a choice. Yesterday you didn't know better, but today you have knowledge. Given the choice between being in debt for 30 years or being debt-free in just 10.8 years, which are you going to choose? Given the choice between paying the bank $463,000 in interest or saving $321,000, what are you going to choose? I don't know about you, but for me, every $321,000 that stays in my bank account, I think that's a great thing. But it's not only about the money we saved, it's also about the time. What could you do with 19.2 years worth of mortgage payments? The answer is anything you want. You can take that money and you can invest it in real estate. You can invest it in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, asset-based insurance. It doesn't matter. The opposite of debt is wealth. And we know that if we can help you become debt-free, we can help you become stone cold wealthy. We're the richest country in the world. 95% of us retire broke. It's not a lack of money. It's a lack of education. And we're showing you a tool that can help you keep as much interest and earn as much interest as possible. This program is backed by science. It is driven by hundreds of complex banking algorithms. It is the first, the one, and the only interactive debt elimination program on the market today. It's alive, it's breathing, it rolls with you. It connects with over 13,000 banks and lenders. And although it looks like magic, it is just math. So I want to encourage all of you here today to get back with whoever invited you to this meeting and ask them to run for you a complimentary. That means a free savings report, because achieving your financial goals begins with debt elimination, and you have absolutely nothing to lose but years off of your mortgage and potentially tens and thousands of dollars in interest. I want to thank you guys for plugging into this section, and I look forward to speaking with you again in the next one.